What's going on? This is Yancey, author and producer of the This Is Why series. Make sure you go now and subscribe to my website, www.newfacemanagement.org. This is why you go to college.
Face Entertainment.
New Face Family. New Face Family.
This is why you go to college.
New Face Entertainment.
New Face Entertainment.
This is why you go to college.
New Face Entertainment.
This is why you go to college.
This is why you go to college.
And this is why you go to college.
My little sis, we're here.
I'm here.
You came down to Atlanta. You're one of the top priorities.
Get out.
You know what I'm saying? So go ahead, let them know.
Pipe.
Let them know who you are. Let them know, where you're from and, your Hampton situation. So let them know.
I am Shay. I'm Lawson. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I am a 2006 graduate of Hampton University, Ogre 12,
Nice.
political science major.
Cool. All right, and we're down in Atlanta now.
Yep.
So what do you do down here?
I am an intellectual property attorney. I work with entertainment professionals and social media influencers.
Cool. All right. So what made you decide to go to Hampton? What made you decide to go to HBCU?
Man, it was not my choice. I want to be transparent. I feel like we've never talked about this.
Yeah, sure.
But I actually got into Brown.
Okay.
I got into Brown. Josh Mangana's brother
Yes.
went there. So he was like my black person escort, like
Yeah.
when they did their diversity weekends. And I got in. I'm a first generation college student. So once I got in and everybody was really excited and they were like, sweetheart, they're like, there's no money attached to this. Like, you got in, congrats. My parents were like, who's going to pay for this, sweetheart? Like, you're on your own. And so I was like devastated. And I graduated from high school when I was 17. So it wasn't like I could apply for loans on my own.
Right.
I went to high school with Jason Roberts.
Okay.
And so Jason came back after high school day and he had like a little hand. This is back, y'all, this is in the era of hand cams. So Jason used to carry like a little hand cam with him everywhere, and he came back to our high school and was like, yo, this is like my school. So he was like, apply, like I'm sure you can still apply. I literally applied to Hampton in March of my senior year, and I wrote my application in like ballpoint ink pen while I wasn't paying attention in physics class, and I sent it in. I got in, got a full ride. So yeah, and so my intention, that's my honors college shirt. I was a presidential scholar. And so my intention was to go to Hampton, wait till I turned 18, and then leave and go back to Brown when I could apply for a financial aid. Man, and so when I got to Hampton, the freshman orientation, that's when I knew I wasn't leaving. Like literally the first day I got to Hampton, I was like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Right. And what was crazy was that we were in Ogden. DJ Vince was the DJ, and he played like SWV week, and like the whole auditorium, it was like we went to private school, so that was like the first time I'd been somewhere with a whole bunch of black people who knew the words to a song, and it just like instantly like felt like family, from the student leaders and the Greeks, like helping people move in to people greeting you, and it just like instantly felt like home, felt like family, and I was like, I'm never leaving. That was it.
All right, so you get there. So you came in 1 year after me.
Yep.
It was a rough year for me, but
I know.
but we see it through. We're there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you met me, or experience with the early Yancey days.
Man, I don't know. I don't remember how we met.
Yeah.
My dorm was Twitchell, and I was really good friends with Kim and Erica Dingle. So I had to have met you through Brandon Taylor.
Right.
No, through Brandon Taylor.
Yeah, they were
and Kim Frenchie is Kim's cousin.
Right.
So that's how I know you, through Frenchie. And so, and it was just like you were the person whose house we could go over and do laundry. You would pick us up. You would sign us out of school. You would and do you remember that your sophomore year, my freshman year, none of us went home for Thanksgiving. Like, you made Thanksgiving dinner, and we all just stayed at school, and we stayed in your condo, and it was like 20 of us. And you was holding little meetings, and this was like when we were like, you were doing like the Legion.
Right.
It was like Holland
Brandon
parties.
Taylor's birthday. We had just did a record post. Right.
Yep. And so it was like, well, could y'all pass out flyers? Well, could the girls do so and so? And it was literally just like a division of labor. Like it wasn't like and now it's a call to business, or it wasn't like a formal meeting or anything. Like it was just like everybody was just cool and like wanted to help support a good time. Like it's Hampton, so how many good times are there? So it's like, yo, like we know we're lit. Like all right, let's help. Like let's do it. Yeah.
So you came at a time where, we had, our freshman year we did a Mardi Gras party.
Yep.
And then our sophomore year we did our first Legion. That was the Rep Your Coast.
Yep.
So you came during that time period where we were still straight face. It wasn't even New Face.
Yep. It was straight face.
It was straight face entertainment, and we were just basically 19 years old trying to figure it out, And so from your perspective, it was just like we were just, like you said, we were just helping each other out. Right over the bridge.
Yeah.
Like the structure and everything that they see on the documentary is not what it was back then. Like we were just like little ducklings.
Yeah, just like it was just like, if you come over Yancey House, you need to help with something. Like, we're broke college students. I don't know where everybody was coming from, but like we was broke and you stayed feeding like hella people. Like it wasn't never a time where we couldn't, so I just think that it was like fostering family. Like, and so nobody had a problem. And this is how I really feel like y'all changed the game, was the buses. Because you got to think, at school, how were we going to get to something off campus? On campus, they weren't really letting us turn up like that. The students, and remember at that point, we couldn't even have anything in the student center.
Right.
The student center was brand new when we got there, and they weren't letting us have anything in there after hours. So y'all were, by having the buses, y'all were the only option, and then we were the people who didn't have cars because we were freshmen. So it was like, yo, spread the word in your dorm, go back to your dorm, and spread
Shuttle
the
buses
word.
Would be there right by the Burger King.
Yep, and meet at the Burger King and get to the Legion. And that was like, for us, that was our club. It's Hampton, Virginia, so it was like, like it was lit. That's what changed the game.
Yeah. So your sophomore year was the year I just crossed. So were you there for Hurricane Isabel? Did you leave? Did you go home? What was your Hurricane Isabel experience?
That was, I was
busy.
Yeah.
You can say you were busy. That's all. You were busy.
Yeah, I was busy.
From your experience, or from what you remember, what was the 12 to 2 like at the beginning? You know what I'm saying? So from what you remember, because like you said, it was busy. There was a lot of things going on.
Yeah, because 12 to 2 didn't really, honestly, you got to think about 12 to 2 didn't really pop till like my senior year.
Right.
So that was like 05 over to 06. That was when they started letting us be in the student center more. And it was more of, that was just the time that everybody had free and passed through. And then like once y'all started DJing, it was like, then people who would normally just stay in the harbors or stay in their dorm, everybody was like, yo, let's swing. But it wasn't even called 12 to 2 then. It was just, let's go to the student center. Like, yo. And I know this is when everybody's gonna be out. You gotta think, like, that was when the Kappas were doing like Pretty Thursdays, so they was coming to school like super dressed, and the Kappas was coming from NSU during their lunchtime to come hang out at our student center. So the military dudes used to be in the student center, like, so you have to think like that was the time where at some point everybody was grabbing lunch, so we was there all the time. And then the DJ just like, y'all DJing just like took it to a whole nother level. But it wasn't called 12 to 2. It wasn't like a planned thing. And you got to think, prior to that, it was the Big Calf. Like the Big Calf was where everybody met at, and so y'all really transitioned everybody from staying at the Big Calf from 12. That was, for everybody watching it, 12 to 2 was when the Big Calf was open. That was when the Big Calf was open. So the Big Calf was like a fashion show. It was where you came to be seen. It was where you came to meet up with people. And then as they started letting us do more stuff in the student center, it transitioned to the student center.
Our senior year.
Yep.
And at that time, we had basically full control over the campus. Like, from what I heard, the way campus is now is not the way it was back then. Like,
really?
Like, we had a lot of control. Like, as student leaders, SGA, we were able to do things more freely.
They can't do it?
Yeah, I just heard it's very limited. I mean, they still have like the 12 to 2, but the reason why the 12 to 2 happened the way it was is because me and Sean Washington, we were always on the mic like, next semester, don't schedule classes between 12 to 2. Like, we used to tell people when it came time for registration, don't schedule classes between 12 to 2. So I think that's where the idea kind of came from there, because we were trying to make as many people as possible avoid those classes. So that they can, get
come and be there. Do you remember, even before y'all were DJing, do you remember, and ask Jack about this, that there was a piano, and do you remember that Jack and Mark Jackson just used to play the piano? So even before y'all was DJing, like, Mark would just be playing and making up stupid lyrics and like making up songs.
That's why I call him Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, like just stupid songs about people and funny stuff, just like playing the piano in the middle student center. Like, so before they kept that stage there, there used to be a piano there
right
all
there
the
in the corner.
time. Yeah, and Mark and Jack used to play it all the time.
So what do you remember, like, because obviously I wasn't in the townhouse by myself, so what do you think about, like, Sean and Howard, like, you know, and Palico and everybody else?
Oh, Palico, hey. I mean, that should tell you something. Palico had his own song. It was lit. The house was super lit, but again, I just felt like it was like a family. Like, it was really like y'all did everything together. It was like a synergy. I just feel like it was infectious. Like, y'all set the standard for how people were supposed to interact, like unknowingly. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm looking at them and they're, you know, these icons, which I feel like people later in life is like, oh my God, it's you. Oh my God, it's Yancy. But I don't really feel like that. Like, y'all were just cool, and you know, like them being from Cali and like all that, it was just like all these different mixes of vibes in the house, and it was just always gonna be something different, something fun, something cool. And it was like a place where you could be creative and throw out ideas, but it wasn't just like throwing out ideas. The next week you'd be like, well shoot, let's do it. Like, if somebody genuine, it didn't matter who it was, it could be like somebody new that somebody had just brought to the house for the first time, and if they had a good idea, you'd be like, well shoot, let's do it.
Right.
Like, and I think very few people have the ability to go from somebody having a good idea to executing it at a high level.
Right. All right, so we were very active on campus. We did a lot of things. So for when it comes to a college student, you know, looking back now as a young adult, reflecting on what we did, what do you think how did that affect the college student to be a scholar in the classroom and then doing so much off campus, I mean on campus and off campus, and being that active? What do you think that does for a person's personality?
Wow, I think it just sets the standard for what your adult life is going to be. In adult life, you are managing so many other things just besides your job. So college just really set the standard for that. And at the time that we were in college, remember, like, the key phrase was like whack and slack. That's the worst thing somebody could call you, was whack and slack. And that meant that you weren't involved in extracurricular activities, or you'd be like, you know, they are random, like where it was just like, if you went home, if you just went to class and went home, it was like, what are you doing with your life? Yeah. And so I think it's putting a responsibility on you to give back to your community, to develop yourself individually in your relationships. Like, the relationships weren't built in the classroom. The relationships were built in student leaders, in SGA, in your Greek organizations. And so those are the people who are still in your core group now. And it's going to be similar when you're an adult and you're navigating, you know, professional opportunities. So you could be at a job now and be interested in something completely different. Well, now you need to go to these conferences, be involved in these professional organizations, X, Y, and Z, because that's going to help you get to the next level. So it's really just helping you be a well-rounded person. I think it's also an opportunity to find what your craft is, right? Because if you're sitting in the classroom and you're just taking notes and you're taking tests, it's when you join an organization that you realize, I can throw a good event, I can fundraise, I can organize a whole bunch of strong personalities. Like, you realize what your leadership capabilities in a corporate setting are when you do all those extracurricular things.
Right. So we have the privilege of being a part of the Line 9 organization. So let's just talk about your reasoning for becoming a sister adult facilitator, and you know, what is it like as a young adult? Because people see the college thing, but I see what is it like as a young adult?
You know what, I knew I wanted to be a Delta from the time that I was actually in high school. My friend's mother, she was a Delta, and at the time she was like one of our first black female prosecutors. Then she became a judge, and then she was our congresswoman. But at the same time, she was like this really dope person, kind of like your house, where her house was the open house where like we could come after school and we could hang out. Right. And so that's kind of like mind-blowing, right? To be like, I'm hanging out at my congresswoman's house, but she was just my friend's mom, but she was super cool, and she always repped Delta super hard. And then ironically enough, while I was in law school, I ended up going to the same law school she went to. But while I was in law school, she tragically passed away, and her sorority sisters instantly stepped in. Marsha Fudge, who is her soror, stepped in, took her place in Congress, and she was like the mayor of a neighboring town. Like, they all came in. It was just like what do you need? And to me, I always knew that I don't want to pay money to do, you can do community service for free.
Right.
I'm not paying money to join a community service group or to get new friends, but I am willing to contribute my time, talent, and treasure to make an impact for the greater good. And Delta has always been about that since 1913. So that's something that's always been in my heart. And now as a member in the times that we live in right now, just getting people out to vote. If you think about almost every African-American woman in Congress, they are members of Delta Sigma Theta. So we're not just making a commitment in college, we're making a lifetime commitment to impact and change our communities for better via, our local community projects or on a national scope via the law. So, as a lawyer, that was something that was always close to my heart. It's something that I'm very active in now. I'm the social action chair, so I lead our legislative advocacy efforts. And I do the same thing for the Recording Academy. I'm the co-chair of advocacy for the Atlanta chapter of the Recording Academy, which people refer to as the Grammys. But the Grammys are just the awards, and they're put on by the Recording Academy.
There you go. Let them know. Let them know. All right. So, so we talked about your sorority life. Let's talk about your business and how you can be contacted, and what is it that you do to let them know if anybody's interested.
Oh, okay. Again, my name is Shay Lawson. I'm an intellectual property attorney. That means that my practice centers around mostly copyrights, trademarks, and contracts. So I specifically focus on helping creatives protect their passions and profits through those three things. I can be reached everywhere at Shay M. Lawson, ShaymLawson, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, ShayMLawson.com.
The documentary is to inspire high school students, so we always make sure that we give a couple messages out. So the first thing we're going to talk about is depression, and a college student that may be depressed or have any issues. Do you have anything that you want to give as far as advice goes when a student may be depressed in college, and like something you may want to tell them if you have a group that's going through it, something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Man, life is hard. Don't let somebody tell you that what you're anxious about or depressed about is nothing, or that it'll pass, because although it may pass, it's very real in the moment that you feel it, right? So never let somebody diminish how you feel, and never feel bad for feeling how you feel or ashamed about how you feel. And in those moments, really find your circles of people that you can be your authentic self with. And that, if that means sitting in silence, if that means somebody letting you sleep in your bed for days, whatever it is to get you through to the next day, the next step, but most importantly, get through to the next minute, the next hour, the next step, the next day. So always feel free to talk to somebody, find somebody before you get to your lowest point. Find somebody to say, yo, I'm not having a good day. Check in on me. And just really utilize your network, because you would be surprised that if when you say you're not okay, that somebody else will say, man, I feel the same way you're feeling. So never be ashamed to say, I'm not having a good day. You don't even have to deep dive and be like, I'm depressed, I'm going through so-and-so. Like, man, today is a tough day. And you would be surprised how many people rally around you and support. So that's definitely the advice I would give.